Hi, I'm David. So for this problem, they give us a point, 2 comma negative 3, and a slope, m equals negative 1 over 2. And they want us to take this and put it into a linear function so that we can graph it on a coordinate plane using the point-slope format. Now, as we recall, the point-slope format is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So all we have to do is take the information we are given and plug them in to the appropriate places. So this 2 would be x1. It would be the example of a point that the line passes through. This negative 3 would be y1. It would be a point that the line passes through a y coordinate. And the m is the slope that we plug in here. So what we're left with is going to be y minus negative 3 equals negative 1/2 times, parentheses, x minus x1, which is 2. And so now we just have to simplify this equation. So we know here, when you subtract a negative, you're really just adding it, right? Because the negatives cancel out. So this becomes y plus 3. And meanwhile, on this side of the equation, we distribute the negative 1/2 into this binomial. So this becomes negative 1 over 2 x. And then meanwhile, the negative 1/2 multiplies the negative 2. The negatives cancel out. This becomes a positive 1/2 times 2 would be positive 1. Next, we subtract this 3 because we want to isolate the y. Because what we ultimately want to get is slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b. So if we subtract 3 on this side, we have to subtract 3 on this side. That gives us y equals negative 1/2 x minus 2. So this is our final equation. This is the linear function in slope-intercept form. Now, as we recall, the negative 2 is the b, which is the y-intercept, meaning this is where the line crosses the y-axis. And negative 1/2, again, is the slope. So the first thing we do once we get this is to plug in the negative 2 and graph the point where the line crosses the y-axis, which would be down 2. So we know this line is going to cross the y-axis. This is the y-intercept. Next, we look at the slope. So we remember that with the slope, the top part of the slope is the rise, and the bottom part of the fraction is the run, rise over run. And since there's a negative sign, that means the line is going to go downward, right? So that means we're going down 1, right 2. That is the slope. And so the next point we could graph could be this one. And of course, we could always do this backwards. We could always look at this as up 1, left 2, right? It ends up being the same thing. Because the slope is still the same, it doesn't matter which way we look at it, the line ends up still connecting, right? And as long as we have 2 points, we're able to graph a line. So we don't have to do 3 points. That is just extra. As long as we have 2, we have enough information to graph the line. This is what the final graph should look like. And of course, we can use our graphing utility to check our answers to make sure everything's correct. So we turn it on, we go to y equals, and then we just plug in this equation, which is negative 1 over 2 x minus 2. Press enter, go to graph, and a line should show up on your graphing utility that resembles the line that we just graphed by hand. And that is how we solve this problem. Thank you.